Okay, so we're going to pick up with our second video and right in the middle of the notes where we left off, and we're going to pick up with algal blooms. Okay, algal blooms are when the algae really takes off. Right here you can see a pond that has a film over the top, and it's got like a green sludge over the top, and that is literally from an algal bloom. It looks like these blooms look like a sludge, like I said, on the top. And so pause the video for just a moment to go ahead and write that in on looks like a sludge or a film on top of the water. Now, there's several different types of algal blooms. One of them is called red tides. And a red tide is a common name for a big concentration of aquatic protists, like red algae. And when they get a whole lot of that, and it kind of begins to float in a big group or concentration, it's toxic to marine life, and it's really unhealthy for you to swim in. So it can kill fish and other marine animals, and it's not good for you. You can see a red tide here that's headed towards the coast of California. All of this right here in the water, if you can tell, is just, it looks like smoke, almost like a red smoke, but it's literally millions and trillions of algal cells that are all traveling together, concentrated and probably headed towards the shore. This is one protist-like plankton that you can see up close. And this is also a toxic one that has an acid that it produces that's a neurotoxin. The word neurotoxin, neuro meaning brain, and toxin, causes amnesiac shellfish poisoning. So needless to say, algal blooms are not a positive thing. When you have an algal bloom, they're going to close the area, like this one picture right here says. You can't dig and hunt for clams and oysters and mussels and snails because they're going to be polluted. Their bodies will be toxic from that algal bloom. You can see that also drinking water can be poisoned even. And this is, this happens every summer in North Idaho. We get these algal blooms in Twin Lakes. We get them in Fernan and other places. I think I remember someone telling me that it usually happens first in Fernan. Like that's one of the key first places where it happens. And they tell you, oh, you're not supposed to go swim. And fortunately for us, the algal blooms in Twin Lakes have never been so concentrated that you really can't swim. You shouldn't eat the fish that you catch out of there when you have an algal bloom. And if you swim, you definitely want to shower really well. You don't want to drink the lake water, clearly, because that would be bringing toxins into your body. So again, what do these algal blooms look like? Well, they look like a layer of scum, and you can see this really scum looking stuff, and this poor dead fish that got caught in this algal bloom that has died from toxins. It's sometimes green or red. And why are they bad? Well, these blooms produce toxins that can make people and animals sick and even be deadly. So go ahead and pause the video right here, and under algal blooms, go ahead and write down what they look like and why they're bad. All right, so the next group or type of plant-like protists are called euglenoids. Euglenoids, and these are found mostly in fresh water, especially in stagnant fresh water. This word right here, stagnant, means not moving. So when you have water moving, like streams and creeks and flowing creeks and rivers, as they're moving, things are not, your bacteria is less built up. it's kind of filtering out as it tumbles over the rocks and things like that. Now, I'm not saying it's safe for you to go drink out of a stream. It very well may not be, and I have some stories about that later. But stagnant water is particularly dangerous because there's been no movement, it's not being oxygenated, and it's not being filtered in any way. Now, this euglenoid, or what we call a euglena, was really important. It was the connecting link between plants and animals, and it's going to make more sense to you in just a minute when I tell you why we call it the connecting link. Okay, if you look at this picture right here, here are some single euglena. If you look at this picture over here on the right, you see they can take different body shapes. Euglenoids can come in several different shapes, and so they can be stumpy and big like this one, or they can be a lot longer and leaner like A. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and add in type 3, which is euglenoids, and write this description. Now, this is just another picture to show you the green scum, and even this one is more of like an orangish, reddish scum on the top, and this is a stagnant freshwater area. This water is not moving very much, and a lot of times it's really common to see like a dead fish floating right there, just because they've just been immersed in that algal bloom there, or they've been immersed with the euglenoids. So you remember that euglena are going to be different from an algal bloom, but they can be very concentrated in the stagnant water. All right, so the discovery of the euglena was a huge, big deal. And notice that again, the euglena has several different body types in which they can come in. You can see these right here. They have the flagella, which is going to give them the ability to move. There are more than 1,000 species in these aquatic environments. So there's over 1,000 different types of euglena or euglenoids, okay? The discovery of the euglena was huge because it was the first green organism. And you go, well, so what? The first green organism that can move. Well, I've already seen a bunch of green organisms. You showed them to me already, Miss Burton. You showed me that diatom, or that was green, and or that other one. And here's the thing, though. Those just floated. They didn't have movement. They were more plant-like. But what this did right here is that this euglena is green like a plant, so it is going to have some plant-like characteristics, but then it's going to also move like an animal. So it's kind of, like I said, the link between a plant and animal. Now, even though it's green, it does not have cell walls like a plant, like you would expect it to do. So let's go ahead and pause right here. And the first thing I want you to write down is that the euglena was the first green organism that could move. So it was part plant, or it seemed like it was part plant, part animal. Go ahead and do that right now. So at this point in time, we have to go and make sure that you remember that the difference of how animals eat. And so you're going to have autotrophs, which can make their own food, and they make it from the sunlight. And if you look at this picture down here, you've got the plant cell, and then it's going to take, and there's a whole chemical formula that happens in here. And you're going to have to learn that when we study plants, but we'll just hold off on that chemical formula for now. You have this plant cell. It takes in the sunlight. It then has this chemical reaction and then makes sugar. And it produces, and one of the byproducts, or one of its waste, is oxygen. And then that's what we breathe. Well, our animal cells, remember, we give off CO2, which is a waste for us, and then the plants breathe in that. So remember, we've talked about this awesome partnership in which we make air, quote, air for each other. So this euglena, again, like part animal, part plant, does both things. It gives off oxygen and it can give off CO2, and vice versa, take the other one in. It is literally like a blend of a plant and animal. So pause the video right here and write in number 2, the Euglena was the first organism discovered that could do both, make their own food and hunt or consume other foods. Now, this is cool, not gonna lie. However, there is an importance, okay? There's an importance to this, and it's because of these characteristics of both plant and animals that this German biologist proposed in 1886 that there be a third kingdom, Protista. Remember, before, you were either going to be a fungus, a plant, or an animal. And when they found this Euglena, when they discovered this Euglena, this was the one that said, hey, man, we can't put this in any of those three. We really need, well, they're saying third kingdom here. I guess they had not had the fungus and the fungi category in 1886, but then that will come later. But he's proposing we've got to have this other kingdom for all these microorganisms that don't fit into a plant or animal, and then later on don't fit into the fungi either. So that was an important discovery. It changed the way we classified things. And if you look down here, down in 1886, that's our footnote, that fungi, they thought they were plants at that time. But remember, the fungi kingdom is going to come, and at that point it will come out of the plant kingdom and go into its own kingdom, because it's not a plant and it doesn't behave like a plant, and you will end up seeing that when we study fungi. So basically he was proposing actually a fourth kingdom, but unbeknownst to him, and that would be Protista. So go ahead and write down the importance that came from the discovery of the Euglena. Pause the video right now. Okay, this is a picture of a Euglena, and there is a link that goes with this link that, I'm sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. A link that goes with this where you could watch this Euglena hunting, and that's really in and of itself an odd title, a plant that hunts, because plants as we think of them are stationary. All right. On that picture before, I wanted you to notice, and again I put that out, that there was a flagellum. It was that long whip-like tail that was used for locomotion, for movement. Look, and I'd love for you to remember and know that the word locomotion means movement. So if you want to jot that down somewhere on the side, that would be great. So watching this video, there's a red Euglena that's going to swim, and this swimmer is going to, you can see the flagella right here swimming around, pulling this Euglena around through either the water or mucus that it's in. Interestingly enough, in a few seconds, you're going to see a little fast swimmer swim right by it, which is kind of interesting. Very simple organisms, super simple organisms. And that flagella is just guiding him around. You saw that little fast swimmer that just went by him. But that flagella is taking him through, and then he would then be hunting for food or whatever. Remember, and we said it's like the plant that hunts. All right, so in your notes, we're going to go to the section where it says Euglena and has the circle there. And we're going to add these characteristics of Euglena. One, it has plant and animal structures, which is crazy. It's common in fresh water. It can cause algal blooms, and I want to put that in like air quotes, because you can have an infestation of Euglena that looks like the scum of an algal bloom. But clearly algae and euglenas are different. So put that kind of in quotes right there. And their cells actually have a red eye spot. Now, this is not going to be an eye like we have, but it's the beginning of something that's going to be sensitive to light. And I told you we're going to, for the rest of this year, go from very, very simple organisms to a little more complex, a little more complex, a little more complex. And that's what we're doing. A euglena is more complex than a bacteria because it actually has an eye spot. So go ahead and pause the video right here and add those notes to your plant-like Protist Euglena.